If you don't change today, I will become you. Chapter 1: The Woman at the Table. The first time I met my future self, I almost walked past her. It was a rainy Thursday evening. I had spent the entire day telling myself I was going to be productive. I had a list. A real list. 3 important things I needed to finish. 1 work task. 1 personal project. And 1 thing I had been postponing for almost 6 months. I told myself I would finish everything before dinner. Instead, I spent most of the afternoon on my phone. Not doing anything important. Just scrolling. 1 video became another. 1 message became another. Then I watched someone talking about success. Then someone talking about making money online. Then someone showing their perfect morning routine. I remember laughing at that last one. I thought, who actually lives like that? Then I looked at the clock. 4 hours had disappeared. I felt guilty. So I did what I always did when I felt guilty. I promised myself tomorrow would be different. That evening, I went to a small coffee shop near my home. I wasn't really there for coffee. I just wanted to get out of my room. The rain had made the streets quiet. The coffee shop wasn't crowded. I ordered my usual drink and looked for a place to sit. That's when I noticed her. She was sitting alone near the window. A woman in her early 30s. Dark hair. Simple clothes. No makeup that I could notice. She looked tired. Not sleepy. Tired in a deeper way. The kind of tired that comes from carrying thoughts for too long. I don't know why, but I looked at her twice. Something about her felt familiar. She was holding a phone. A black phone. The exact model I had. Even the case looked familiar. I thought that was strange. Then she looked up. Our eyes met. And she smiled. Not a friendly smile. A sad one. She said, "You're late." I stopped. "I'm sorry." She looked at the empty chair across from her. "Sit down." I almost laughed. "I think you have the wrong person." "No." She looked directly into my eyes. "I don't." I didn't sit. Instead, I asked, "Do I know you?" She looked down at her phone. Then she said, "Not yet." Something about that answer made my stomach drop. I sat down. She pushed a photograph across the table. I picked it up. My hands went cold. It was a picture of me. Standing in my bedroom. Wearing the clothes I had worn that morning. Holding the same phone. I looked at her. "Where did you get this?" She didn't answer. I looked at the photograph again. Then I noticed something written on the back. A date. 5 years from today. I laughed nervously. "This isn't funny." She whispered. "I know." I looked at her face again. And suddenly I saw it. Not the eyes. Not the hair. Not the face. Something deeper. The expression. The way she held her shoulders. The way her thumb moved against the side of the phone. The way she looked at me as if she already knew every excuse I was about to make. I whispered, "Who are you?" She took a deep breath. Then she said, "I'm you." I stared at her. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Then I laughed. "No." She nodded. "Yes." "That's impossible." "I know." "Then prove it." She smiled. "You want proof?" I nodded. She looked at me. "Last night, you were lying in bed at 12:47 a.m. My smile disappeared. You opened your phone. She continued. You told yourself you'd only watch one video. I said nothing. You watched until 2:13. My heart started beating faster. At 2:14, you put the phone under your pillow. I stared at her. She continued. You told yourself you'd wake up early. I whispered. Stop. But you didn't. She leaned closer. You woke up late. I looked away. She said. And then you spent the first 20 minutes of your morning blaming yourself for wasting the night. I looked back at her. She was crying. Not loudly. Just 2 tears running down her cheeks. I asked. Why are you crying? She wiped her face. Because I remember. Remember what? Being you. Chapter 2, You Think You Have Time. She looked out the window. The rain was getting heavier. Then she said. You don't understand why I'm here. No. I'm here because I need you to understand something before it's too late. What? She looked at me. You think your problem is laziness. I frowned. Isn't it? No. Then what is it? You're constantly negotiating with yourself. I didn't understand. She explained. Every day you make a deal with yourself. You say you'll work after lunch. Then after one more video. Then after dinner. Then tomorrow. Then Monday. Then next month. She looked at me. And because you're never completely doing nothing, you don't realize how much you're losing. That sentence stayed with me. Because it was true. My life didn't look like a disaster. I worked. I handled responsibilities. I helped people. I had goals. I had ideas. I was trying. But I wasn't consistent. And I had confused trying with progress. She continued. You think 5 years is a long time. I nodded slowly. She shook her head. 5 years is nothing. She pulled another photograph from her bag. It showed me. Older. Sitting alone in a room. I didn't recognize the room. But I recognized the expression. My future self said. That's what happens when you keep saying tomorrow. Chapter 3, The Life I Kept Postponing. 5 years earlier, I thought I had plenty of time. I had dreams. So many dreams. I wanted to build something of my own. I wanted to become financially independent. I wanted to learn new skills. I wanted to create content. I wanted to become better at technology. I wanted to build a YouTube channel. I wanted to become healthier. I wanted to travel. I wanted to spend more time with family. I wanted to save money. I wanted to become disciplined. I wanted to become someone I could respect. The list was endless. But there was a problem. I didn't have a system. I had wishes. Every few weeks I became excited about a new idea. I'd research it. I'd watch videos. I'd create notes. Sometimes I'd even begin. And for a few days, I'd feel amazing. I'd think. This is it. Then the boring part came. The repetition. The practice. The consistency. The days when nobody noticed. The days when the numbers were low. The days when the work felt pointless. That's when I usually disappeared. I didn't call it quitting. I called it taking a break. There was always a reason. I was tired. I was busy. I needed to learn more. I needed better equipment. I needed a better plan. I needed more confidence. I needed the right time. The truth? I was afraid of finding out what would happen if I gave something everything I had and it still didn't work. So I protected myself. I never gave myself a full chance. Because if I never truly committed, I could always tell myself. I could have succeeded if I had really tried. That lie protected my ego. But it also protected my failure. Chapter 4, My phone knew me better than I did. My phone wasn't evil. It was just always available. That was enough. Whenever I felt bored, I picked it up. Whenever I felt stressed, I picked it up. Whenever I didn't know what to do, I picked it up. Whenever I was about to begin something difficult, I picked it up. I didn't realize what was happening. My phone had become an escape route. Not from life. From discomfort. If a task was difficult, I escaped. If I felt uncertain, I escaped. If I felt lonely, I escaped. If I was tired, I escaped. And social media was perfect for that. It didn't ask me to think. It didn't ask me to commit. It didn't ask me to finish anything. It just gave me another thing to look at. Another face. Another story. Another opinion. Another video. Another 10 seconds. Another 10 seconds. Another 10 seconds. I could spend an hour consuming other people's lives without taking one step toward building mine. And then I would wonder why I felt behind. My future self looked at me. You know what hurt the most? What? You watched thousands of people build the lives they wanted. She paused. While you kept watching. Chapter 5, My Mother. There was one evening I still remember. My mother called me downstairs. Come sit with me. I said. In a minute. She waited. I finished what I was watching. Then I went downstairs. She was sitting on the sofa. She looked at me and smiled. You're always busy. I laughed. Not really. You say that every time. We talked. Nothing dramatic. No big family problem. No argument. Just an ordinary conversation. At one point she said, you should spend more time with people while you can. I smiled. I do. She looked at me. No. You spend time near people. She paused. That's different. I didn't understand. Years later I did. Being in the same room with someone while looking at a phone isn't the same as being present. I remembered that conversation when I was older. Because there are moments you think will happen again. A conversation. A meal. A laugh. A visit. You think. I'll do it next week. But life doesn't sign that agreement with you. Chapter 6, The Friend Who Didn't Wait. There was a friend of mine. She wasn't more talented than me. In some ways, I thought I was more creative. She started a project around the same time I did. At first, I wasn't impressed. Her work wasn't perfect. Her first attempts were average. Sometimes they were bad. But she kept going. One post. Then another. 1 month. Then another. She learned. Improved. Changed. Continued. I stopped. Started something else. Stopped again. Started again. Then one day I looked at her work. She had built something. Not overnight. Not magically. She had simply stayed long enough for her effort to compound. I told myself she had gotten lucky. That was easier. Because the alternative was painful. The alternative was admitting that she had beaten me with consistency. Not talent. Not intelligence. Consistency. 5 years later, she had a career. I had explanations. Chapter 7, The First Real Loss. My first major wake-up call wasn't financial. It was personal. Someone close to me needed my attention. I was there physically. But my mind was somewhere else. I was thinking about work. Checking messages. Looking at my phone. Planning what I would do later. The person said, "Are you listening?" I put the phone down. "Yes." They smiled sadly. "No, you're not." That sentence hurt. Because they were right. I had become physically present but mentally absent. I thought people would always understand. I thought I could make up for it later. I didn't realize that relationships also have compound interest. Small moments of attention build closeness. Small moments of neglect build distance. 5 years later, some relationships were still there. But they weren't exactly the same. Some people had stopped waiting for me to become available. And that hurt more than I expected. Chapter 8, The Body I Ignored. My health didn't collapse. It faded. Slowly. I moved less. Sat more. Stayed on screens longer. Slept at inconsistent times. Ignored my body when it asked for rest. I kept saying, "I'll fix my routine." Then I would fix it for 3 days. Then return to the old pattern. I thought health was something I could repair whenever I wanted. Then one morning I stood in front of the mirror. I looked tired. I didn't feel old. But I didn't feel young either. I asked myself, when did this become normal? The answer was uncomfortable. It became normal one day at a time. Not through one terrible decision. Through thousands of ordinary ones. Chapter 9, The Money Conversation. One evening I opened my financial records. I calculated what I had earned over the years. Then I calculated what I had actually kept. The number disappointed me. Not because I had spent everything irresponsibly. Because I had never built a real system. I had thought about saving. I had thought about investing. I had thought about increasing income. But thinking isn't a financial strategy. I wanted more money. But I hadn't consistently increased my value. I wanted freedom. But I hadn't consistently protected my resources. I wanted multiple income streams. But I hadn't built one reliable stream properly. My future self said, "Money doesn't care how ambitious you are. It responds to systems." I nodded. She continued. Income without discipline disappears. Skill without application doesn't pay. Plans without execution remain fantasies. Chapter 10, 5 years later. The coffee shop disappeared. I was standing in a room. My future room. I looked around. There were fewer things than I expected. No giant mansion. No luxury cars. No movie-like success. Just a normal room. A desk. A chair. A computer. A small shelf. A window. I looked at my future self. "This is it?" She nodded. "This is my life." I felt relieved. At least everything is okay. She smiled. That's what makes it difficult. What? You could have done so much more. I looked around. She continued. I didn't destroy my life. I just didn't build the life I knew I could. That sentence hit me harder than anything else. Chapter 11, The Notebook. She opened an old notebook. My notebook. 5 years old. I recognized it. She turned the pages. There were goals. Ideas. Plans. Dreams. Some pages had dates. Some had check marks. Most didn't. She stopped at one page. I had written, "I want to create something I'm proud of." I stared at it. She said, "You wrote this 5 years ago." I remember. "You still want it?" "Yes." She looked at me. "But you spent years waiting for yourself to become motivated." I looked down. She said, "Motivation was never coming to rescue you." Chapter 12, What If? She took me somewhere else. Another room. This one was brighter. There were certificates. Projects. Photos. A healthier version of me. A stronger version. A more confident version. I looked at her. "Who is this?" She said. "Another possible you." I felt a strange pain. Did this person exist? Not yet. Then who is she? Who you could have become? I looked at the pictures. There was no guarantee that life would have been perfect. But there was evidence of what consistency could have produced. A better skill. A stronger body. Better financial discipline. More completed work. More confidence. More experiences. More memories. I whispered. Why didn't I become her? My future self answered. Because every time you had a choice between discomfort now and regret later, you chose comfort. Chapter 13, The Hardest Truth. I finally became angry. So you're saying everything is my fault? No. Then whose fault is it? She looked at me. Some things were never in your control. Family. Economy. Other people's decisions. Unexpected problems. Life. Those things happen. She paused. But your response was still yours. She leaned closer. You cannot control everything. But you can control whether you keep showing up. You can control whether you learn. You can control whether you save. You can control whether you move your body. You can control whether you put the phone down. You can control whether you finish. You can control whether you keep your word to yourself. Then she said something I will never forget. Stop waiting for a perfect life before you start living intentionally. Chapter 14, The Day I Stopped Making Promises. I went home. I looked at my phone. For years I had made promises. New Year's resolutions. Monday plans. Monthly goals. Fresh starts. I didn't need another promise. I needed proof. So I made one small decision. I would work for one focused hour. That's all. Not 10 hours. Not an impossible routine. 1 hour. I turned off notifications. Put the phone in another room. Opened my computer. And worked. It felt uncomfortable. My brain kept looking for an escape. I wanted to check messages. I wanted to see notifications. I wanted to stand up. I wanted to do anything except the difficult thing. But I stayed. 1 hour. Then I stopped. It wasn't impressive. Nobody applauded. Nobody knew. But something important happened. I kept a promise to myself. Chapter 15, The Next Day. The next day was harder. Because the first day had felt meaningful. The second day felt ordinary. There was no excitement. No emotional speech. No future self. Just work. That's where most people lose. Not at the beginning. At the boring middle. I almost quit. Then I remembered her words. You don't need to feel motivated. You need to return. So I returned. 1 hour. Then another day. Then another. Sometimes I failed. Sometimes I wasted time. Sometimes I had terrible days. But I stopped turning one bad day into an identity. That was the beginning. Chapter 16, The New Rule. I created a rule. I could change my plan. I could rest. I could fail. I could slow down. But I couldn't disappear. If I started something important, I had to stay with it long enough to honestly evaluate it. No more quitting because the excitement disappeared. No more switching because someone else's idea looked better. No more confusing research with work. No more watching 10 tutorials instead of practicing. No more collecting information without creating something. No more waiting for confidence. I learned that confidence often comes after action. Not before. Chapter 17, The First Year. The first year wasn't spectacular. That is important. It was better. Not spectacular. I became more disciplined. I created more. I learned more. I became more careful with money. I improved my health. I spent more intentional time with people I loved. I still wasted time. But less. I still failed. But I recovered faster. I still had doubts. But I acted anyway. And slowly, something changed. I began to respect myself. Not because I had become successful. Because I was finally becoming reliable. Chapter 18, The Second Year. By the second year, my skill had improved enough that other people noticed. That surprised me. I hadn't suddenly become talented. I had simply practiced long enough. The work I once found difficult became easier. The things that once took hours took less time. I understood more. I made fewer mistakes. My output improved. And then something happened that I hadn't expected. Opportunities started appearing. Not because I was lucky. Because I had something to show. That was when I understood the difference between potential and proof. Potential says, I can do this. Proof says, here's what I've already done. The world responds to proof. Chapter 19, The Third Year. By the third year, my financial life looked different. Not perfect. But organized. I knew where my money went. I saved before spending. I invested in learning and useful tools instead of constantly chasing shiny new things. I stopped trying to look successful. I started trying to become stable. That changed everything. I didn't need to impress people. I needed to build something that could survive a bad month. A bad year. A difficult season. I finally understood that financial freedom isn't only about earning more. It's about needing less chaos. Chapter 20, The Fourth Year. By the fourth year, my relationship with my phone had changed. It was still there. I still used social media. I still watched videos. I still enjoyed entertainment. But it no longer controlled every empty moment. Silence stopped frightening me. Boredom stopped frightening me. Difficulty stopped frightening me as much. I could sit with a problem. Think. Work. Wait. That ability was worth more than I realized. Because modern life gives you endless ways to avoid yourself. I finally learned how to stay. Chapter 21, The Fifth Year. And then 5 years passed. The funny thing? It felt fast. Exactly like my future self had said. 5 years didn't feel like 5 years. It felt like a series of Mondays. A series of ordinary mornings. A series of choices. And when I looked back, I realized something terrifying. The 5 years would have passed anyway. Whether I changed or not. That is the part people forget. Time doesn't wait for your motivation. It doesn't wait for your confidence. It doesn't wait until your circumstances become perfect. It moves. Every day. Quietly. Without asking permission. Chapter 22, The Final Meeting. I returned to the coffee shop. The same table. The same window. The same rain. And there she was. My future self. But this time, she looked different. She looked peaceful. Not perfect. Peaceful. She smiled. You made it. I sat down. Did I become you? She laughed. No. What? You became someone better. I looked confused. Better than you? Better than the version of me you met. I smiled. Then asked. Was it worth it? She didn't answer immediately. She looked out the window. Then she said. I lost things. I nodded. Some opportunities passed. Some people changed. Some dreams changed. Some plans failed. Some things hurt. She looked at me. But I no longer wonder what I could have become. That was the answer. That was the real reward. Not money. Not fame. Not perfection. Peace. The peace of knowing I had stopped abandoning my potential. Chapter 23, What I Wish I Had Known. If I could go back and tell my younger self only a few things, I wouldn't give her a complicated plan. I'd tell her this. Don't waste your best hours on things that don't matter. Don't spend your youth watching other people live. Don't keep collecting ideas. Build one. Don't call procrastination waiting for the right time. Don't call fear being realistic. Don't call distraction rest. Don't call quitting changing direction every time something becomes difficult. Take care of your body before it forces you to. Save money before you desperately need it. Spend time with people before you miss them. And most importantly, keep promises to yourself. Because every time you keep one, you build self-trust. Every time you break one casually, you weaken it. Chapter 24, The 5 Changes. If you're listening to this and wondering what you should do tomorrow, don't try to change everything. Start with 5 things. First, control your phone. Don't let an algorithm decide what your attention is worth. Second, choose one major skill or project. Stay with it long enough to become good. Third, protect 2 hours a day for your future. Treat those hours like an appointment you cannot casually cancel. Fourth, treat your health as part of your career. Because eventually you cannot separate the two. Fifth, review your life every week. Ask yourself, what did I finish? What did I waste? What did I learn? What did I earn? What did I save? How did I treat my body? Who did I give my time to? And what am I still postponing? Final chapter, The Message. I still remember the first thing my future self said to me. You're still doing it. At the time, I thought she was accusing me. Now I understand. She wasn't angry. She was scared for me. Because she knew what I didn't. That a wasted hour doesn't look dangerous. A wasted day doesn't look dangerous. A wasted week doesn't look dangerous. A wasted month doesn't look dangerous. Even a wasted year can be explained away. But 5 years? 5 years tells the truth. It shows what your habits actually were. It shows what your priorities really were. It shows where your attention went. It shows what you valued. Not what you said you valued. What you actually valued. Because your calendar tells the truth. Your screen time tells the truth. Your bank account tells a story. Your health tells a story. Your unfinished projects tell a story. Your relationships tell a story. And one day, you will look back at all of them together. You will see your life. Not the life you imagined. The life your repeated choices created. So don't wait until 5 years from now to ask yourself what happened. Ask yourself today. Where is my time going? What am I building? What am I avoiding? What am I postponing? Who am I becoming? Because every day, you are answering those questions with your actions. Not your intentions. Your actions. And maybe you think one day doesn't matter. You're wrong. One day is exactly what 5 years is made of. One morning. One afternoon. One evening. One decision. Again. And again. And again. Until suddenly. 5 years are gone. I know. Because I lived them. And if I could sit across from you one last time, I wouldn't tell you that your future is guaranteed. I wouldn't tell you that success is guaranteed. I wouldn't tell you that everything will be easy. I would tell you something much more honest. You have no idea what your life could become if you finally stop abandoning yourself. You don't need to transform overnight. You need to stop disappearing. Return tomorrow. Return the next day. Return when you're tired. Return when nobody notices. Return when the numbers are low. Return when the first attempt fails. Return when you don't feel motivated. Return. Because eventually, consistency becomes identity. And identity becomes life. 5 years from now, you will still be you. The question is, which version? The version who kept waiting? Or the version who finally started? The version who watched? Or the version who built? The version who kept saying, someday? Or the version who finally said, today? Because I am waiting for you. 5 years from now. And I already know exactly what I will say. I will look into your eyes. I will remember every excuse. Every wasted hour. Every unfinished project. Every tomorrow. Every time you chose comfort. And I will ask you one question. Not how much money you made. Not how successful you became. Not how many people knew your name. Just this. Did you become the person you knew you could be? I hope you won't make me look away. I hope you won't make me explain why we wasted another 5 years. I hope that when we meet, you won't need to apologize. Because if you don't change today, I will become you. And if you do change today, maybe 5 years from now, I won't be the person warning you. Maybe I'll be the person thanking you. For putting the phone down. For getting up. For starting. For staying. For choosing your future over your temporary comfort. For finally understanding that the life you want isn't waiting somewhere in the distance. It is being built. Right now. By you. With the next decision. With the next hour. With the next day. So don't promise yourself that you'll change someday. Don't make another grand plan. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the new year. Don't wait until you feel ready. Do one thing today that the future version of you will be grateful for. Then do another tomorrow. And another after that. Because 5 years from now, you will meet yourself. And when that day comes, make sure you recognize the person standing in front of you. If you don't change today, I will become you. But if you start today, I can become the person you were always capable of becoming.